Hi, beautiful souls. This is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel and welcome back to deck combos. This is number 17 and it was a lot of fun yesterday. I had a whole bunch of decks just sitting here on my desk and I didn't get through a quarter of them, so I'm going to do a few more today. And the first one we're going to look at is Enchanted, which I have used before in another video, but I really wanted to bring it out again. It's one of those decks that kind of draws me in and I want to work with it more. It's just so big, it's hard to pack around, but it's also easy to shuffle. If you shuffle it from the corners, it's a beautiful shuffling deck, and every time I look at it, I just want to work with it more. So let's get to the cards right away. The Oracle deck in the middle, I want to introduce. It's Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle deck. This deck, I have done a full walkthrough when I received the deck, I believe last summer. So it's on my channel. I'll put a card up for you. It has really beautiful, beautiful colors. And the backs, there's a variety of backs, card backs. So it's fun and it just looks great. And I thought I brought it in here because I was looking for another pairing for this deck. And I know I used a plant deck before as well too, and there's something about the energy of the plants that supports this deck here. So this deck is a textile collage, so textile art, and it really is a feast for the eyes. There are so many details in every single picture, and one of the things I started doing with this deck was to include it in past life readings, and that was new for me recently, so it's working really well. And so it's been out, and I've been playing with it a lot more. We have the High Priestess, and we have empowerment is a key word for Hellebore. Hellebore wants you to know how powerful you truly are and to help you tap into your innate female wisdom. I swear I do not plan this. These things just happen, okay? I'm laughing, but anyway, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the cards. I want to say thank you to the universe for making this so easy for me. And then look what we've got over here. We have this beautiful meditating monk in the Four of Swords. And I see him kind of sitting in a protective place so that his meditation can be contained. I talked about this yesterday, about the containers. And sometimes I find these themes come forward for me during different stages, and there tends to be a repetition of the theme and it comes through. And so that seems to be my word for yesterday and today is containers. So the High Priestess sitting next to Hellebore. It is time to honor yourself, stop hiding, and stand in your own magnificent light with your head held high, and give yourself permission to connect with your heart and lead the way. With your head held high means something completely different to me these days. That means with your posture in alignment so that the crown of your head is open and the flow of energy can move freely through the crown, down through the physical body, through the spinal cord. And I just really feel that energy when the light comes in and you feel that connection, and you also allow that energy to travel all the way down to the ground and back up. So what I see here with the High Priestess on the left and form of the Divine Masculine on the right is this complete balance and empowerment through balance. Empowerment through embracing the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine and using their strengths to find your own power and whatever it is you need to grow and to blossom. So gorgeous. Soulflower. So here's a different back. You can look at the video, but just to show you, look, they're so pretty. Yeah, I actually like it when deck creators do that. I was going through the, sitting right here, where is it? The soul cards. I'm going to do some videos with soul cards. I have been kind of waiting to do that. And so there's 4 different backs on the soul cards as well. And I like that. I like that when deck creators get creative in that department. It's fun. Ooh, gorgeous. So these are wild roses. They're not so perfect as the ones that we tend to... You can actually buy these and plant these around your property as well too. But I love them. I love the wild roses. Rose is comforting and soothing, infusing your heart and soul with gratitude and joy, and helping you to stay centered and loving to yourself and others when it is needed most. So these words are speaking to the medicine of the heart. So you can also, if you work with colors, think of the pink color, the energy of the heart space, and just the gratitude is medicine. Joy is usually associated with the 2nd chakra, the sacral chakra, and the right to feel joyful is what brings all of those desires and that the nastiness of the 2nd chakra into balance. So let's look to the pinks and see if there's any associations with 2nd or 4th chakra. Such a gorgeous image. This looks like Durga. We have strength. Wow. Rose reminds you to be open to the sweetness of life and support your personal growth, whatever the conditions surrounding you may be. So whatever the conditions surrounding you might be, there's a need to tap into that innate, eternal inner strength, that inner wisdom that you have. And there's such a serenity in the strength card. And there's such a serenity in also being aware of and tapping into and using your own internal strength. And then we have 3 of Swords. So what we have here in the card in the middle and the card on the right is the medicine for the card on the left. And there's a lot of anguish in the artwork on the left. It feels extremely painful. And so be in that pain. Allow that pain to move through you, to feel it completely, and to take as many days off as you need to create space for that pain so it is experienced. And then once you're feeling a little bit better, you can begin to not compartmentalize, but it's not as overwhelming an experience. I think the process of grief at first is really important to fully embrace and to take days and to actually take time off to be in the experience of the grief. But then there comes a point where you can begin to function and move with a little more ease, but still there needs to be the space to continue the grieving process in a more personal way, just an acknowledgement as you're moving through your day. And it's an evolving thing, and sometimes you will feel overwhelmed by it months down the road, and other times you'll feel fine, but just to really not suppress the experience so that you actually have the opportunity to process it. And I think that is definitely the secret of really understanding the balance in the heart space. And so we have Rose and we have Strength to support you with that. Let's see what else we've got. Ooh, Red Clover. Love this flower. You know, this one reminds me of bears. Those years that I lived in Whistler, I loved being among the bears, living near the bears, knowing that I would see a bear every day in the summer months. And I would really, I'd really enjoy it when, can't find my words. I really enjoy the deepening awareness of the different plants as they come into foliage, the ones that the bears like to eat, starting with the skunk cabbage. That was always the first one. and the clover, the dandelions later in the summer. Anyway, red clover helps support a sense of clarity, individuality, and self-awareness in the midst of our chaotic and often negative world. For me, it reminds me of summer, and it was, definitely peace, calmness. She has calm and steady presence to help you remain balanced and to think and act from your center of truth, despite whatever may be taking place around you. That's funny because some people do not feel very centered when the bears are around, but for me that is. So it's nice also when you have a deeper kind of energy with the plant, and we're not just focusing on the luck of the clover. So she's sitting beside the Queen of Swords. And the Queen of Swords sometimes needs that reminder, doesn't she? That sense of tranquility. Sometimes the Queen of Swords is just too darn focused on hell-bent and getting things done, and the energy feels a little too cool. And there's a sense of warmth in the center of the card in the center. There's something else I wanted to say too. Clarity. When I see the word clarity here and I see clarity there, it's kind of a mirror thing. So look for words also to help you to find meaning. Sometimes the keywords can be distracting, and sometimes they can really help bring insight into the reading. 5 of Swords. You know what this looks like to me is this kind of message from God, message from universe. And each of those thunderbolts, which is what they look like to me, are delivering a divine message. And together, combined, each of those will create a particular message for the receiver. How cool is that? And that message is being received by the Queen of Swords. And so in this kind of tumultuous energy, look how cool these cards look. Ooh, that was my breath blowing the candle. That was my long cool. There's such coolness, and then there's warmth here. And so there's a need to really stay calm as you receive these messages, because these messages might not be what you want to hear. Okay. So this is Soulflower and the Enchanted. Next combo is the Hezicos Tarot with the Fauna Inspiration cards. I've wanted to use this deck for a while in this series and hesitated because it is out of print. I have seen a lot of out-of-print decks lately, though, on the Facebook trade group, so I would definitely keep my eyes out there and not give up hope. A lot of people clear out their collections, and there's always opportunities to get great deals on older decks. So the Land of Hezicos, so colorful, so brilliant, full of these gnome-like creatures. And here we have a gnome completely relaxed, lying over a mushroom, surrendered to the process, fully supported by the mushrooms. Read into that what you will. Unfortunately, there's 10 swords through the body. The mouse. Sometimes the smallest animals can teach us the biggest lessons. Well, there we go. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it? Often depicted as meek and timid, Mouse is nothing of the sort. She is clever, sensible, and assertive, enterprising, and spunky. She defies limiting expectations. Another big lesson throughout the Suit of Swords, and here we are at the culmination. Either unaware or uninterested in fulfilling inaccurate assumptions, another lesson of the Swords. She makes her own way wherever she goes. Mouse teaches us that even the least suspecting fauna has great capacity. All it takes is self-confidence and an ability to remain calm and trust oneself. So what happens through the struggle of the swords is a disintegration, a distancing from that quality of trust. There's just too much doing. The ego steps in the way, the mind steps in the way, and so we find ourselves at the end, hopefully, in a similar position here where we are just, I don't know, it's just, there's this real sense of letting go. And unfortunately, in the RWS system, it's been depicted this way, but there's a beauty in the Ten of Swords, and that we no longer have to fight this. It's over. and we can surrender to all of those qualities that we have been fighting against for so long. And so we need to take some of the inspiration from Mouse. Ooh. And then we have all of these amazing resources. Look at them all on the table. That magician is just got so much stuff there. So whatever it is that you have learned through the process of the swords, through your journey through the swords, you have the resources now to move forward and to walk away. Isn't that interesting how the cat is walking away from the mouse and the cat is walking? I see this as you. It's right. This is you just setting off on your own journey over here. Kind of cool. Oh, did I say that I love reading cards? Knight of Swords. Okay, so the court cards in this deck can be a little tricky to read. They're super close up and there's no scene going on. So we just have a face. Sometimes it faces right or left and sometimes it is face on. It's the only thing I don't like about this deck. Octopus. Oh, well, that's cool. So octopus, think of down in the depths, the keyword reveal. Something about in this reading, something is about to be revealed, something that was concealed perhaps is about to be revealed. And spending nearly every moment in confinement, octopus demonstrates the impressive impact of revelation. He is often found curled up in his cave, plagued by self-preservation and frozen by fear. When necessity requires trips outside, he travels in trepidation. Arriving in a moment of uncertainty, octopus explodes with intensity. So that sounds a lot like the Knight of Swords, right? That real kind of reaction, moving in reaction. So in order for the reveal to be in your highest, that kind of reaction, that sudden jerky movement, those quick snappy words, there probably needs to be some awareness around that. So as you navigate this next change, this next shift, it doesn't feel so impulsive and so awkward. Arriving in a moment of uncertainty, octopus explodes with intensity. In his example, we are reminded that revealing oneself requires bravery. In exposure, we are defenseless. We must lend ourselves grace when we are vulnerable. So sometimes when we end up on stage, when we end up in a place of vulnerability where everyone is looking at us, we can behave in a way that doesn't feel how we truly want to behave. We behave in reaction instead of from the heart. And so that these two cards are really talking to each other. So listen to that message, especially if you have something coming up where you need to present yourself. You want to do lots and lots of background work so that you find yourself in a more comfortable situation. And this doesn't look comfortable at all. This looks very, very nervous, right? It doesn't have that sense of confidence and assurity. So I would imagine that this reading is about, so what can I do to help prepare for this event, for this next step, for this reveal, for this place, this uncomfortable place where I need to find myself. And we're going to need to pull a whole bunch more cards to get there. But it's really interesting how this theme and the color is blue. You see all the blues here? So I'm going to go to the voice and have a little chit chat with the querent about the power of the voice and all of that. Anyway, let's have a look at one more. Three of Swords. And we have water droplets, not blood. Ooh, an Ace of Swords. Okay, let's see what the animal message is. This deck has a mini version and it also has a kids version, and I'm hoping to acquire all of those decks soon-ish. I'm really, really taken with these, and I want to share them with lots of people. Swan, love. Swan teaches us about awakening the power of self-love and recognizing inner beauty. Drawing energy from our virtue, she encourages us to reflect upon our fortuitous bounty. In the embrace of her grace, we are reminded to swim gently with the currents of life rather than against them. She rouses us to affectionately take reviews of our emotions, examine the trappings of our humanness, and acknowledge our shortcomings. Once we are able to love ourselves, we are able to love others without expectation. Sounds like another theme coming through of expectation. So here's Swan swimming towards the Ace of Swords, just swimming towards her truth and swimming away from the pain and the grief of the past, of holding on to all of those expectations. And how were those expectations created? Some of the questions that I might ask myself or the querent. Next is the indie version of the Enchanted Tarot with the Shamanic Healing Oracle by Michelle Motuzis. I did use the deck in the center with quite a few tarot decks in the 5th video. So if you want to see this in more combos, you can go back to that one. Let's see what we've got here. So the reason I paired these two is I find the Enchanted to be quite moody. And what I mean by that is the cards either seem to be quite dark in weather, dark in scene, or very, very yellow. So it seems to hop from one to the other. And also the Shamanic Healing Oracle, for the most part, the cards are fairly, the lighting is fairly low, let's say that. There's lots of details in these cards, so look to the details. This, to me, looks perhaps like a magnolia tree. There's lots of light through the archway, so the optimism lies in this direction, which is really nice, towards the center of the reading. Looks a bit like a Lenormand deck, you know, with the cloud card, with the clouds on one side, and then the clearing on the other side. And yeah, definitely a sense of optimism on the right side of the card. And these are bronze, perhaps, bronze goblets. And here we have broken gray goblets. Rain, sun. So yeah. All right. In the center, we have a card of balance, movement into balance. Moon, sun, water, earth, and another 5. So I expect the question that was asked was quite a challenging question. And if the querent wasn't able to articulate how they were feeling, by pulling 2 5s, you have a pretty good idea that the inner turmoil is very real for them. What I see on the center card here is that first word is being really important. So helping the querent to actually create steps to move through this turmoil. The change, the shift isn't going to happen by doing nothing. There's some action that's actually necessary. And sometimes when we're feeling so crappy, we forget that it just takes a baby step and then another step and another step. So that movement into balance, the actual first word, feels really significant here. Yeah. All right, I love this scene in the bar. It's really cool. All right, I love the indie version of this. I've only seen the mass market version on YouTube, and I think these cards might be a little bit smaller than the mass market version. Inner Journey. That's kind of cool. So if you read runes, you'll know what those runes mean. Let's just give me a second. I'm going to pull out the guidebook. Number 35, Inner Journey. Not all who wander are lost. At times, we are so consumed with our own personal journey that we project our journey onto another. Every soul arrives on this planet with lessons to learn and a life to live. For as many souls that are out there, there are that many different journeys. Do not judge another's journey. Always respect where another person is on their path. Meet everyone you come in contact with where they are on their path. Do not insist that they come to where you are. Do not insist they come to where you are. By doing this, you will not only expose those around you to your own healing vibration, but you will offer them acceptance without judgment. This is a great gift to both give and receive. That's pretty cool. So I will, I'll look up those runes. Something I've been meaning to study. I'm really, really intrigued. And yeah, so another thing yet to study. So that's pretty awesome, right? To get that Six of Pentacles there. And again, we have a card with the storm in the background, but we have this yellow, there's a separation here, right? Between the environment. And it just fits so perfectly with the message we just read. That's truly, truly amazing. And we have another Ten of Swords. I think we had one in the Hezicos Tarot. And if we look at the word inner journey and we apply those keywords inner journey to the Ten of Swords, I think that reminds us what that card is all about. And in this particular deck, the artist has chosen to have the person get up and already be on their way, which is a beautiful interpretation of the Ten of Swords. So yeah, quite like the Annika Tarot. Oh, then we have the Nine of Swords. Yay. All right. And the World card. So the World card is what's on the back of this deck, I believe, right? And we have 4 moon phases represented here, and then the sun in the background of the World tree. And the stars all around. It's really beautiful. Okay, so we have 2 leaves. We have some acorns and the keyword growth. Sorry about that, had to feed the doggo. What I see going on here is the acorn and the oak. This is about a recognition of cycles, a recognition of the natural course of cycles. And the phrase that comes to mind is, this too shall pass. And so there's something about this message about really embracing the cycle of life. And sometimes that cycle is a lot longer than we want it to be. We need to really, much like that last reading, we need to accept our path, where we are on the path, on our journey, and not be too attached to what's going on other people's paths, on other people's journey, and to really be in acceptance of wherever we are in this cycle. And because this is the World card, there may be a sense of sadness. There might be a sense of melancholy about coming to the end, about things winding up. So that's one possible interpretation. This final combination is full of light and love and inspiration and deeply sacred work. These 2 decks stay on my altar, my personal altar space, and I work with them quite regularly. In the center is the Rumi Oracle by Alana Fairchild with beautiful artwork by Razuli. Both of these decks I have trimmed and edged, so there's a lot of love put into every single card. I usually begin with the Rumi Oracle. In the guidebook, there is translation of Rumi's work, and then a channeled message and an invitation into meditation for each of the cards. So from time to time, I just work with this deck alone. But I find the Margarete Petersen adds another layer, a beautiful layer and a complexity that can expand the meditation, that can expand the message from Alana's guidebook. This Hand of Fatima card is really something. There are about 6 or 7 cards in this deck that I pull over and over again, which to me is a real indication that that is where the bulk of my work is. That is where I need to continue to focus my meditations and my inner work. Ooh, look at that. We have hand in hand. So when symbols repeat, to me, that is just really important to focus on that. And I might actually be sitting in my meditation now, touching my hand and looking at my fingers and becoming aware of the energy of my hand and the connection of finger to finger or something like that, because those kind of things are important, in your work. This death card is so gorgeous. It's a reminder of cycles and life cycles and the connection of natural cycles and all of that. And look at this kind of cycle of energy that's whirling here. So I find these two decks are an extremely personal journey. At this point, I'm fairly comfortable with the Margarete Petersen, so I don't even have the guidebook out. But it is also a beautiful offering, and so to have that handy to work with it works really well. Many of the cards touch on Waite-Smith interpretations, but they tend to go a little deeper and into a more subtle layer. So let's look at another combination here. Ooh, I love this one. This is one of my cards. This one comes up very, very often. This is Al-Uza, Star of Venus. To me, it looks like she's inside a cave or inside a womb. And just that color, it's so spectacular. And another thing I like, so when you fan out the Margarete Petersen, see if I can get my hands around the tripod here. So when you fan out this deck, you see all these gorgeous colors, the purples, the greens, the oranges, the yellows, the golds. It's got it's energy just into the backs of the cards, which is another reason why I like to put these cards together. That's my dog bumping the table. She likes to be part of everything that I do. And so there's a Six of Cups. You'll find a lot of frames in her deck. And so when something is in a frame, it's an interesting way to look at what is outside the frame, what is inside the frame. And here we have a very colorful card on the right. And so I would spend some time looking at these two cards together, because they're very much mirroring each other. And if you can see the face in the Margarete Petersen Nine of Flames, it's kind of looking up towards the figure in the central card. And this card over here feels very, very cooling. And because it is a Six of Cups and I am familiar with Waite-Smith interpretations and I'm looking to the water, and I particularly have a lot of deep and profound memories and attractions to the water. And so I not only want to go back to my childhood memories, but also to those patterns. What is it about that pulls me to the water and to the sometimes the melancholy and the romanticism of my childhood? Yeah, so let's look at another one before I leave you today. So let me know what you think of the combos I've shared with you today, and if you use any of them yourself, or if you have any questions about some of the cards that we pulled. This one I have never ever pulled before. This is number 7, Blood Angel. And I'm not going to read to you from the guidebooks because they're pretty intense, pretty involved. This to me is one card that doesn't fit in this deck at all. It looks very straight up Waite-Smith, a kind of a straight up moon card. But I do see the moon here emerging in the center of this deck, in the center of this card, which is really interesting. And then we have the 5 of Coins. I always look to color, and I try to find if there's a common color in the 3 cards, if there's an energy that is speaking. So sometimes I step back, so I move my meditation cushion back a little bit further and look at the cards from a different perception, and that can also really help. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me today. And again, I always enjoy chatting with you in the comments below. I don't know if you noticed, but up on the top of my page, I added a coffee button. And this is there with the intention of seeking support for my channel. So if you like the work that I do and you would like to encourage me to make future videos, perhaps you would like to buy me a cup of coffee. And I wish you all well on your sacred journey. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.